So I was asked to speak through my poetry. And I was also asked to address the question, what is your green? And I think that the way people tend to communicate with each other nowadays is highly influenced by symbols. So the first thing that came to mind when it comes to green is like money, right? And I was like, that doesn't pertain to me because times are hard and somebody's broke and like I can't really talk about that being my green because it's definitely not my green. But I painted my nails green. And then I was thinking about it also, there's this trendy symbol where green means being environmentally friendly. And I think that's permeated throughout this conference and we see it all the time. For example, last year when I was in Berkeley, in California, you would see all of these buses in the city that had like Chevron, it's going green. Right? And as an undergraduate, I took a class with Professor Laura Nader about energy, where she taught us how to problematize and ask questions about what does green actually mean? Like, okay, is Chevron really a green company? Is British Petroleum really a green company? And you know, our local grocery stores, what does it mean when they're doing renovations to become more green? The thing that I think I learned from Laura Nader, and as a graduate student now, and meeting scholars on a regular basis, like literally sitting down for hours on end, like reading Foucault, reading Gramsci, reading Walter Benjamin, Hannah Arendt, they're always asking us to problematize things. They're always asking us to challenge the dominant paradigms. They're always asking us to see beyond what appears to be true. And so yeah, my green is revolution. My green is praxis. How do I take these concepts that I learn in graduate school and that I read on the page and transform the reality of what the world is? Because I'm kind of short, I'm skinny, I'm brown, I'm a woman. The reality for me, I think, in the world, trying to navigate my way through it, is difficult. You know, it's a struggle. And I think that that is sort of the things that I grapple with within my poetry. So I think using poetry is the way that I can use, you know, what quiet, humble voice I have to transform the political and power landscape of our world. And with that, I'm going to start with my first poem, which is called Poem for Hudaka. If you guys Google her name, you'll probably come to a YouTube video that's very disturbing. But she's a 12-year-old girl who's from Gaza, whose whole family died on the coast of Gaza in July of 2007. And I like to mention the date that it's July 2007, and that's before the actual massacres that happened in Gaza, the winter of 2008 and 2009. So this is called Poem for Hudaka, a 12-year-old girl who found her entire family dead on the coast of Gaza, July 2007. 5 bodies sunbathe on the Gaza coast. Sand drips out ears, suffocates remains. Left for Huda, 12-year-old daughter, sister, niece, grabs fistfuls of sand, avalanches into her mouth. Hands raised, pours the same sand, stuck in open flesh. Blood clumps inside the gasping abrasions of her father, mother, brother, sister, uncle, a puddle of blood, scraps of skin into her mouth. Sand clumps with saliva, gasping, gaping, gasping, no screams come out. She keeps digging to hide from missiles, digging into silence, digging underneath a black pistachia, black hijab, black gloves, digging, digging, digging a hole deep enough to bury herself alive beneath sand. So that's my first poem. And I choose to write about these subjects like it's hard to explain because we're always reading about, you know, what it's like people trying to understand what it's like to be oppressed, right? People trying to understand what it's like to experience racism, people trying to understand what it's like being Arab, especially in light of these revolutions that have been happening, the stunning revolutions that happened in Tunisia and in Egypt. And I'm an anthropology major, so everybody's always trying to study me, you know? There's this like, what is up with those Arab women, and how are we going to be able to help them, and how are we going to liberate them from all of their oppression? And that's all everybody's always thinking about, right? But there's this Aboriginal saying that goes something along the lines of, if you're here to help me, then you're wasting your time. But if you think that your humanity is bound up with mine, then, you know, come along. And I think that this is the way I try to approach everything I do. And especially within my organizing and my activism and my poetry. So, yeah, here I am on a regular basis dealing with anthropologists trying to study me, while at the same time dealing with these awful things that are happening right in front of my eyes I'm Palestinian, by the way, which I think is helpful for me to understand all of the controlling processes behind what we appear to think and know is true. So all of these things are happening, and of course we're going to act. Of course we're going to be that sound to spoil the pretty picture, that thing that challenges the dominant paradigm, because we have no other choice. I know a gentleman came up here a little bit earlier and says that he actually believes in choice. I, on a regular basis, don't feel like I have a choice to not speak. I think that I don't have a choice to, after I've seen something, to like turn my head and pretend like it didn't happen. But I think sometimes in order to keep things the way they are, even though things are very volatile, we have to sort of pretend like certain things aren't happening. So this next poem is called Free Flight. And it's Free Flight, what it is like being a Palestinian woman at UC Berkeley while Gaza is burning. And as I mentioned before, this is the way I felt when Gaza was under like the bombs of the Israeli military in the winter of 2008 and 2009. And it's a very personal poem. And most of my poems are personal. And it's not because I want to like, you know, be a confessional writer or something, but that's just my reality. Yeah, it's an emulation of a Judah Jordan poem. Does anybody know who Judah Jordan is? She's one of the most widely published Black women in America. And she's the poet who wrote, I was born a Black woman and now I'm become a Palestinian. And I think it's telling the fact that there's this queer Black woman in America, right, who says that she has become Palestinian. She doesn't say, I want to help Palestinians, which is something very different. She says that my body, like I can physically embody Palestinians, which is something very different than, you know, I want to help some people out. Which I think is a very nuanced difference, but it's huge in the way we perceive helping and like developing and ideas. So this might give you a glimpse into my reality for a second. It's called Free Flight. Nothing fills me up at night. Janine and I spend hours rolling grape leaves to distract ourselves from internet updates. The death toll is rising, the detected use of dime bombs. I inhale a whole box of red strawberry licorice from Trader Joe's and drink an entire pot of Metamia tea. I lick the chocolate off the bottom of my ice cream bowl. Janine and I stay up till 4 a.m., our eyes completely ajar, staring at each other in the turquoise night in my El Cerrito bedroom. The last time this happened in 2006, I chalked with red pastel crayon the name of Salim all over my bedroom wall. Salim, S-A-L-E-M. He's 22 years old and beneath the debris. Red dust on the pillow, red dust on the blankets, red dust on the white sheets, red dust smears all over my hands and face and on the floor, and it is not blood, but it might as well be his blood on my hands. And I cannot help but wonder which is worse, being killed or watching the killing on a full stomach. I should have spared loving men who think it is better to end their lives than to keep playing a game where the cards are stacked up against them. After protesting in San Francisco and Los Angeles, it is the sixth one so far, my UTI turns into a kidney infection, which turns into a stomach infection, and I cannot feel below my belly. Ibtisam, Yaman, Kifaf, Hassan, Daniel, Wasim, Amin, Tom, Emiliano, Shoaib, Ali, everyone at SJP Berkeley. We lift little milk cartons and make believe they are tiny dead bodies. So college students on our campus, so people will feel anything, so anyone will feel something on their way to class, between poli-sci, OCHEM, or comparative literature of South African diasporas. Maybe somebody will notice, in the midst of writing a paper due tomorrow, somebody will take a moment to not turn their heads or roll their eyes and say, geez, those students are so radical. Why are they always protesting? We want you to notice because white phosphorus starts small, a scratch, a little burn, and water is like a flame. Within hours, it eats away at flesh. Phosphorus is stuck in the eyes of that little boy. I saw his picture, but I cannot remember his name. What does white phosphorus look like in the eyes? Like a glazed over lizard, skin splintered, a rotting peel. Speckles on a thigh. Tahrir's thigh, a young woman. I have a thigh too. Take it, burn it slowly. Take the ash and use it for charcoal sketches of Hamdallah's back against every bare wall in this city. And what an awful way to die. And here we are, wasting time stacking milk cartons on my college campus, pleading with Zionist jerks from Tikva, who deny my existence and blame the massacre on Palestinians, as if we love killing ourselves. It's like a football match, and every time a dead body drops, we score a goal, and the good wear green, or the evil wear light blue, or vice versa, depending on who you ask. And Palestinians are evil, and why don't you go blow yourself up, the boy from Tikva says, and I do not move, and I do not care. And I have been generous with my empathy. I have listened to stories of Holocaust survivors and held their stories as dearly as my own. I spent hours on end listening to conversations about Jewish identity and conflating ideas about survival and genocide. And that is why you should get it. Make the connection. This is not survival. Israel is rotting from the inside out, and you've got to draw a line in the sand and say what is wrong is wrong. So get over your intellectual pursuits to rationalize the blood in the streets, because Tahrir's skin is burning, slowly, slowly, and the boy, I cannot remember his name, has white phosphorus in his eyes. And although I appreciate your intellectual pursuits about identity, get over yourself. And maybe next time some Zionist thugs want to push me around, I will hustle them into a hammerlock, tickle their armpits till they admit that they are just some rich asshole who has money and leisure time to threaten broke brown girls like myself. And I will give him a noogie and say, oh hell no. I don't care that you are rich, or that you are white, or that you got big scary lawyers and the ADL and APAC and the IDF and all these other acronyms behind you. I am not impressed, and you are not cute, and you will not keep me quiet, because I am not afraid of you. And forget you for taking up so much time and space in my poem, because Tahrir is burning, slowly, slowly, and the boy, I cannot remember his name, has white phosphorus in his eyes. And Janine and I have not slept between protests happening and getting bigger by the day. And it doesn't seem to matter because bombs are still falling and graves are still up in flames and the death tolls are getting bigger by the day. 430 children, mothers with flies buzzing around their corpses, and maybe I want to dissolve, like the PA, and accept money that the PLO throws at young educated people like myself to undermine people doing work on the ground. And maybe I should burn flags and occupy a building or something, because Panda Express is going to run out small businesses. ROTC is coming back onto campus. Hussein's cousin was just arrested and his trial is nowhere in sight. And life seems so lifeless anyway. I mean, I have nothing to lose. You have taken everything from me with that one photo of the boys in Gaza without their classmates sitting next to them. So arrest me, tase me, hang me from a hook and beat me. Maybe I need to burn a flag. Yeah, I'll burn the American flag. I'll burn the Israeli flag too. And hell, maybe if I was not under occupation, I'd burn the Palestinian flag too. I would not be so patriotic if people were not slowly, slowly up in flames. I would not have this inclination to wear kufiyas and yell at people who bought knockoffs from Urban Outfitters and say, hey you're appropriating my national identity. Because what is national identity anyway, except for a way to bracket off bordered land and auction off any semblance we have of human dignity. And nothing fills me up at night. And maybe I need an olive branch. You know, a white dove, long hair, and a peace sign. A drum circle, the kind of body that gets beat up and trampled on by the police. And the closer I get to Gandhi, the better I look to liberals. And somebody make it stop, make me laugh, spit bullets at my enemies, say fuck it up. Well, don't what, I need that. Maybe I need an AK-47, a Molotov cocktail, and a videotape goodbye letter to my family who is already busy dying. The kind of body that stalks and pushes back on people who wrote me the wrong way. The kind of body that the closer I get to get death, the better I look to the good old boys in the Knesset. And somebody make it stop, make me laugh, spit bullets at my enemies and say, don't what, maybe when I wake up in the middle of the night and rush into my bathroom, I bolt the door behind me shut, pour all my shampoo and soap out the bottles, smear it beneath my feet, shut the windows, strip down naked, run the water on high and loud in the sink and in the bathtub, writing poems, in the mirror with eyeliner and in the shower curtain with lipstick. I sink my head under the water, running loud, spilling over onto the bathroom floor. So the cries of the dead won't scream so loudly in my head, so the cries of the dead won't scream so loudly in my head. Let the water stick in my throat. Water only makes it cry. So not to leave you guys on a really dismal note, but I write poems because I feel like I'm a voice that spoils the pretty picture. And it's the only way that I know how to use my voice to push back against power, to speak truth to power. Professor Manny Maribel just passed away. He wrote the book, Speak Truth to Power. And that's how I do it through poetry. And so I've shared whatever little I know or however I feel my experience to maybe illuminate for you guys how, anger or lack of choice over your own life leads to resistance. And so resistance is my dream. And I hope you guys appreciate it. And thank you for listening.